Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Just thought I'd do this video on what equipment and things that I run on the tank. Somebody had asked what lighting I'd got, so just making this video for that really. I'm running AI on the tank, so I've got AI Hydra 52 on the right hand side, and I've also got an AI Prime, the older version, the 13, on the left hand side. That's why maybe it looks a little bit different. I think some of the colorways are slightly different on the 52 HD. Obviously it's got more LEDs, so there's differences there. Just showing you at the side of the tank there, the control panel. I don't run a skimmer on this tank. These do come with skimmers, but when I bought it, it didn't have a skimmer with it. The guy had been using it as a freshwater tank, so he didn't have the skimmer, but he still had the pump. Obviously when I set all the tank up, I'd switched all the control board to on, and unfortunately I found out quite quick. Obviously I didn't have any fish or anything in the tank, but the pump for the skimmer had exposed wires, so every time I put my hand in the tank I got quite a good shock, which obviously is not ideal. But I managed to find that out quite early, so I took the pump, turned the pump off and just removed it outside of the tank. So even if I turn it on by accident, there's no chance that it can hurt the livestock, the corals or the fish in the tank. Next piece of equipment really is the MP10. It's not the quiet dry version, it is quite noisy, but that's what I had laying around, so that's what's on the tank. For quite a good amount of time really, I didn't have that even on the tank, but with the amount of corals and everything I decided to put that on. So obviously I wanted to keep the hood on the tank as well, just mainly to do with evaporation. Yes, it's not as good for pH, there's not as much fresh air getting to the tank, but that's what I prefer. I prefer the hood on the tank at the moment. So just lifting the hood up, you can see the tank originally comes with 6 T5 tubes. I think I had 4 white and 2 actinics. I think 2 of them were bust anyway, so they weren't working. I'd looked at replacing them, but they were quite pricey for what they were. And obviously with T5, you have to replace them every 6 to 12 months anyway. So I decided to put the LEDs on. What I've done is I've secured a metal bar that goes all the way across, which I can slide the hydras on with a mounting bracket, just to give it a bit more stability. But I was finding that it wasn't really, the lights weren't sitting right, and you can see they're off to a bit of an angle here anyway as they are. So I've done a bit of a makeshift fix, a temporary fix, where I've just glued like a Sharpie pen, an old Sharpie pen to either side, just to raise it up off of the perspex, just so the LEDs aren't really burning through the plastic. I am going to, at some point, I've got a mesh lid kit, which has already been made up for somebody else's tank, but I've got it and I've got all the components, so I'm going to make that into one that fits on this tank. And that's mainly, obviously it is going to be worse with evaporation, so I'm going to be topping up the tank a lot more. I have got an ATO, so it's not a massive deal. But mainly because I prefer the look of the tank when the light's a bit higher. It obviously lights up the tank a bit more, gives that even spread, where at the minute I don't feel like I'm getting the even spread all throughout the tank. It is going to create a bit more light spill, but I can get obviously I can get a diffuser, but it will mean that I'll probably more than likely drop down to just one 52 HD, and I can remove the prime and get the prime on something else. But here's just a bit of a look at the tank from further back while the hood is up, so it gives that even spread. And I'll just close the lid down on the tank in a minute and see if you can see any changes on the video. I don't know whether it's going to capture it fully, but I run both lights on quite a low percentage, just so that it's not getting too hot in the little compartment where it is, and obviously I don't want to burn anything out. Plus, the lights are really close to the water surface, so it means that some of the corals that are quite high to the water surface as well, like some of the zoas, they'd be getting a ridiculous amount of par. So, as it stands at the moment, corals are growing and they're doing okay. So, one part of me is saying if it's not broke, don't fix it, but I like to tinker with things, so I will be removing the lid. The lid is quite easy to take off. I think there's just 2 pins at the back which slide out, and then you can just remove the whole hood. So I'm just showing here that, I've cut a little nodule out for the wires, but you can see there that the wires were quite bent, which is not ideal for any electricals, but it's serving a purpose at the moment, and the lid doesn't come up that often. Feeding the tank, I don't lift the lid fully up. Even doing a water change, I don't lift the lid fully up just because I don't need to. The lid splits into 2, so the front half comes up, and that gives me enough space and access to do what I want to do with the tank, really. The other piece of equipment that I use on the tank is this Tunzi scraper, which I'm not a massive fan of. The tank does have quite a few scratches on it already from previous owners, but I'm pretty confident that this scraper has made its own few scratches as well. I think in the future, if I get another tank, get one in a much better condition, I don't think I'd be using the Tunzi scraper. It is rated for thick glass, thicker than what this Red Sea is, to be honest. But like I said, I think the damage has already been done to the glass. There's some quite deep scratches. So as it stands, I've got no concerns with leaving it. So I've just put the phone down to close the lid on the tank. And yeah, next time you see it, the lid will be down, and that's the normal view. So I think you can see in the corners and to the edges of the tank, they're not as bright. And I think, centrally, directly under them lights, a lot of the corals are getting much more light than what they maybe need. So once I get round to it, I'm in no rush to do the mesh lid. Like I said, it's coming up to winter here now, so the house is going to be warmer, the room that the tank's in is going to be warmer, so it means that I am going to be losing out on evaporation. Means I'll be topping the tank up quite a bit more. So that's basically why I'm not in any rush, but that's the equipment that I'm running on the tank.